All right. Hey guys, I'm Professor Lead Youth, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I practice. I know it's hard to stay motivated to practice during this time. Even though we're inside all the time, you think, hey, we should practice more, right? Nah, there's still the motivation's not there. And I totally understand that. Anyway, but today I figured I'd talk you through how I practice and maybe give you some tips on how you could practice, right? And talk you through my different, Etude books, my different warm ups I do. Not that anything I do, you have to follow to a T clearly. This is all just baseline guideline stuff, maybe to get you a little inspired to practice a little bit more. Um, we'll see, but I'll let you decide that. Anyway, getting right into it, I'll start with and don't worry, I'm not going to play too much. I'm not here to necessarily perform for you guys. It's just to talk you through whatever. But the first exercise I like to do is normally long tones. Oh, let me get this off. Real quick, just so you know, this is my neat little baritone cover. My sister made it, custom, because why not, right? If you can't tell, I love the Baltimore Ravens. Anyway, but she ended up making it for me, and it works as a pretty good mute, actually. So not only does it customize my horn, but it makes it so if I'm playing at 3 a.m., I'm not going to totally wake up anyone, Anyway, so it's pretty nice, cool. If you ever more interested in one, just hit me up and I got you. Anyway, moving on. So the first part of my practice routines, I like to do, long tones. Everyone says that, right? I am not, one of those that loves long tones. I have a whole Etude book, which I'll end up showing you about how I go through, different long tone and air exercises. But as for just long tones, it's really just to get me used to the mouthpiece, maybe even buzz a long tone on a mouthpiece and kind of just call it a day. I don't work on it too much. Essentially, I just start at, bass clef F and go down to B flat and then maybe the pedal notes because I love pedal notes. But otherwise, I don't really stick there too much. But then I move right on to scales. Still being in college, scales are very important. Not saying they're not important after college, but when you're in college, they're still very, very important, unfortunately. Anyway, so I, of course, needing to practice them, I am not going to sit there and just play through each scale just to do it. I need something that's going to keep my attention and keep wanting me to practice the scales over and over, right? I'm not just going to sit here and play through them. So I have two different ways I work through my scales every day. The first way is I made my own little chart here, which hopefully you guys will be able to see halfway decently. Anyway, so here, I'll bring it up even closer. But essentially, if you can see the key of B flat, right? And I do play through just the B flat scale. Then I do B flat natural minor, B flat harmonic minor, and then melodic minor. So I still end up playing through the scales, but but you see they're just one octave, and just to kind of get your fingers used to the scale, because then the fun stuff comes up, right? Fun stuff. Then I go to the chromatic section, which essentially you start on whatever the key is. So you start on B flat, you go up one octave to the higher B flat and back down chromatically. Nothing much there. Then the whole tone scale, which if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. Essentially, you just play through it. Your ear will start getting used to it. And if you ever want an explanation on anything like that, let me know. But that's not the point of this right now. Anyway, and then the 1, 4, 5, 7, 1 scale. Then what else we got here? Oh yes, then the minor version. Then Jacob's exercise, which some of you might have heard of. I've taken that from other exercise books. That's not something I came up with. Anyway, but that's super lyrical and just fun to play. Very easy to memorize normally too. And then, of course, thirds, because why not work on thirds, right? So I use this every day to still be working on my scales, but doing something different with the scales, not just sitting there and playing through the scales, because that gets super boring. And don't worry, I don't play through all 12 major scales a day either, because that's not worth it. And I don't got time for that. So what I do have, though, is I made up a sheet for each major scale, right? So like one of the days I do 3 in a row. So I do B flat, E flat, and A flat, like here, right? So I do the first 3 pages. Then tomorrow I do the next 3 or 2 or whatever, right? Whatever I have time for that day. And it's, again, all the same exercises, everything's written out. And I formatted on my own because I couldn't really find anything like this. So, I put in the time and I think it paid off, certainly to a degree. Anyway, so I run through that and that's how I get through my scales. Now, there is part 2 to that, if you didn't think that was enough. The only reason why I have this extra section, though, is because it's actually fun for me. You might not get any enjoyment out of it. And when I say fun, I mean this much, right? But it's something better than just playing the scales. Anyway, if you don't find it fun, then don't do it. I don't care. But this I did not format on my own. This is from other Etude books and stuff that I've just printed out of, essentially. And they're just the 5-finger exercises. So like over here, the key of C, 5-finger segment stuff. So this is where it runs back through the C major scales, which you can do as a quick refresher if you want. I just skip it because I just did everything else, right? With all the other scale exercises. But then I jump right to the 5-finger exercise, which I don't have to sit there and keep showing you, right? But essentially you just start on C, you go up 5 notes, down 5 notes, up 5 notes, down 5 notes, 3 times in a row. They're all 16th notes, so it's just and then you go up to the next note. So if you start on C, then the next time you go through it, it's D. But you start on the note D, but you're still in the key of C. And then you play that, and then you go up to E natural, because it's the key of C. And then you go up 5 notes, down 5 notes again. And you do all that until you get to a high octave C. That didn't make sense. So, the C you start on, just 4th valve, right? Middle C, I should say. You just work your way up to the octave above that C. And once you hit that and do the 5-finger pattern on that, you're done. So anyway, so I actually find them fun because it's just working on valve technique. You're not really focusing too much on how is the scale supposed to go and what's the exact fingering pattern. This isn't working on that. This is just getting your fingers used to moving through the different valve combinations. And surprisingly, it definitely helps you memorize your scales a lot easier because your fingers are used to the basic patterns, right? And then sometimes after I'm done like the key of C and all them, I'd run through just the C scale again real quick to see, for my own mental sanity, right? Am I improving? Am I remembering the scale very well? And just stuff like that, right? And there's nothing saying you couldn't go up to the next octave, C, and keep doing the 5-finger pattern. Good for you if you can do that. I don't got time for that. Not saying I won't do it if there's a day where I'm working on high range stuff, but in general, these also help with high range because normally by the time you get to that high octave and then you're doing a 5-note pattern off of that, you're normally up to some of the screaming notes. High B flat. You just have to be able to play on most of these, honestly, because that's just how it works out. You'll figure it out if you try it. Anyway, but then officially, once I do about 2 to 3 of those, again, I have them for every scale, but I only do about 2 to 3 at a time. After I do them, I'm done with scales. That's my max for the day. I'm not doing anything else. Anyway, so then after that, that's when I start going to my Etude books. But before I get right to the Etudes, I have the Flow Studies book, which is what I was talking about, where it just really works on my air. That's why I don't do much long tone stuff, because this book is really what helps. So see, Flow Studies is clearly what it's called. Anyway, so I like to play this because it's all just normally lyrical stuff, some technical things, and it's split into 3 different parts. So it has slow, medium, and fast flow studies. I don't know what that was. Anyway, so for examples of some of the slow stuff, it's very basic. You take it at your tempo, nothing bad. And it's just to get you to work on getting your air through the horn, right? And making everything as connected and lyrical as possible. And then the medium stuff, again, I still normally take it pretty slow. There's no reason to take the medium stuff even all that quick, because a lot of the fundamentals you're working on is how well do you get from one note to another, and is your air still consistent throughout? There's no reason normally to really speed it up too much. Like an example of a medium would be you got some 16th notes here. So, you can feel free to speed them up if you need to, but normally I find it's more beneficial to keep them a little bit slower. Anyway, and then the fast section. So, which really, the fast section for this book is all scale stuff, which I know I just said I don't work on anything else scale related, but this is more of an etude using scales, like hardcore focus on scales kind of thing. So like you have B major here, and it's just a whole thing of different rhythms and ways it has you play through the B major scale. And sometimes they get very frustrating. And since they are fast, you're supposed to get them as fast as possible. That's the point of them, because they are just scale stuff. Anyway, so as part of my routine, I do one slow, one medium, one fast. I'm sure you could have guessed that already. And sometimes if I'm really tight on time, I just go right to the fast ones, because those I find are more beneficial for me, because I have a lot of valve problem. My air overall is okay, but my fingers don't work the way they need to most of the time. So I definitely like to work on a lot of the fast stuff, even though I love lyrical stuff. I bet that doesn't surprise you. Anyway, so now to get to the actual Etude books. Clearly, I don't work out of each of these books every time I sit down to practice, but I'm going to talk you through each of them as to give you ideas on if you want your own books, right? And what I'd recommend and whatever. Anyway, so the first one here I got is the Stephen Mead Performance Studies. And I really love this one because this is a lot of lyrical stuff. It has technical passages, don't get me wrong, but a lot of lyrical stuff, and I love it. Or just upbeat, kind of dancey things, like really cool. Honestly, they're more just songs, not just etudes. You know what I'm saying? You probably don't, but it's okay. Anyway, but just neat stuff. I mean, I have, if you look on my channel, I have these where I actually recorded myself playing them. And I purposely didn't have it where you saw me playing it, because that would turn you off, right? But point is, because this comes with the CD, if you get the CD version, which actually is in the back, right? You got the little CD. Anyway, and it actually has Stephen Mead himself playing through it, which I thought was really cool, and I use that to help me get through these and to really hear it, because, you know, I'm one of those musicians that once I hear it, I do a lot better with it. But I found that not everyone has the capability to play CDs within their computers or anything anymore, so why not put some on YouTube? So that's exactly what I did. I recorded myself playing them, and you can go check them out if you want, if you decide to get this book, or maybe you already have this book, right? Anyway, but I love this for just lyrical fun stuff to play. Definitely some of them are challenging, don't get me wrong, but definitely a good change from some of the other Etude books I'm about to show you, because these are official Etude books, like this one, Melodious Etudes, right? This one is specifically the trombone one, and it is the up-to-date version with the downloaded accompaniment for like piano and stuff, whereas the original vocalese, which is what these are from, doesn't have any accompaniment or anything. Anyway, but these are slow, if you couldn't tell from the title, slow lyrical things still. Very cool to play. Again, I kind of think of them as, I mean, not like it's a love song, but just really thoughtful songs, just very slow normally, and works on, you know, your air, your breathing essentially, and it has slurs all over the place, and it just helps with you connecting to the music, not only getting your air through, connecting to each note, but you personally as a musician connecting with the music. So they're pretty important to me, honestly, just because I do love lyrical things, and these are so beautiful when you actually can play them correctly, which is a challenge. And it's nice because, you know, they start off easy, and then as you get on in the book, you can use those etudes more as for sight reading and things. So it's an all-around pretty useful book, but if you're looking for anything technical, that is not the book to get. This would be the book to get, 40 Progressive Studies. This is definitely the one where you're focusing on articulations, and I mean, there's still air involved, but it doesn't focus as much on that. But yeah, articulations and just finger technique is all what these are about. And at first, for probably most musicians, that's going to look a little sketchy right here, because there's a lot of 16th notes, and Definitely octave jumps. They love stuff like that. Just leaps, different intervals and stuff that you just might not be used to, which makes this very nice to work on when you're working on technical stuff. So this has been one of the big ones I've been working on lately because so as I've already said, need to work a lot on my finger technique, right? So these are beautiful for that. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. But you get through them and they make you a better player, right? And like I said, I don't work on out of each of these books every time I sit down to practice because I'm lucky I find the motivation to practice at all. But I definitely like to mix up which books I work from and which etudes I use and, just spice things up. That's the whole point of practicing. You got to spice things up to get better as a player. You don't want to always be honing in the same skills or just doing the same etudes all the time because that doesn't always work. It's not very beneficial in the end. Anyway, and then the next, what they call the Bible, brass Bible, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Arbin book. This, I'm not even going to sit here and try to explain all of it. It's not worth it. Well, hold up. Love the book, very useful, but it's not worth wasting your time to go through all of it when you could just look it up in a second, right? Anyway, but it has a lot of technical stuff. It's got lyrical stuff. It's got different excerpts and things. Really anything you wanted to work on, whether it be lyrical, technical, work on articulations, air, it's all in here. You want to find anything, it's in here. They even got like duets and things or big concertos that they've broken down into different parts and giving you different variations on. A lot of different things. So this is one of those books that I kind of just flip to a page, see what's on it, and try something, right? It's not, unless you have a clear goal in mind of what you want out of this book, it's kind of just a wing it. You look at it and you just, all right, I'll try that. We'll work on that for today, right? Yeah, there hasn't really been a time where I go to it and I'm like, I know I need to work on this, so I'm going to go to it for that. Clearly, you can do that. I don't think I've ever done that, though. I got other etude books for something like that. Anyway, and then now getting into the fun stuff. If you saw one of my other videos, how to make practicing fun, you always want to put something into your practice session, whether it be in the middle of all your other etudes and stuff, or at the very end. Is just normally where I put it, is pop songs, is jingles, is music from like movies and stuff that you like. And you find the free music online. I'm not saying go out and buy a bunch of music, but clearly you can if you want. And just make sure you play through it, and it allows you to remember why you play horn, right? So I got some examples here. I guess one of my favorites would be Two Whole Songs. It was actually, it's a big band piece, but was it? Yeah, David Weirden, if I pronounce his name correctly. I can always look that up later. He arranged this specific version for euphonium, where it has the different melodic lines from the two whole suites. From the suite in F, the two whole songs. Anyway, and it takes the cool melodic lines out of it and makes it more of a euphonium solo. So I've actually played this for different recitals and things, and that is super fun to play. But again, because it's all lyrical stuff. I mean, a little bit of technical things in there. I love the Irish jig thing. I don't remember exactly what movement that was called. I think it's like the fourth movement out of the suite. Anyway, you can always look that up. The next one, it's actually a duet, which I play both parts of the duet because I love both parts. But if you ever heard of the Devil's Waltz, that is an awesome bass trombone duet, which still works very well on euphonium. Normally, compensating euphonium is what you're going to need, but it doesn't matter. You could use it really on any euphonium, whatever you got to use. But I would suggest looking this up to hear it a little bit because it is freaking cool. Anyway, so it doesn't even mean I sit here and play the whole duet of that, both parts, every time I go to sit down, right? It would be, I love that bass line, right? So I'm going to play the 15 measures of the bass line. And it's just playing through little stuff like that. Just, I don't know, it makes you feel better, especially if you're having a good practice session. Next thing would be, I performed this before, the Euphonium Concerto by Horowitz. It's freaking cool, right? And even though it's 4 pages worth, I'm not going to sit here and play 4 pages every time. Maybe sometimes I'm really feeling it and I'm just going to play it. And then, I will, right? But normally I'm just picking different excerpts out of stuff like that. And then I get to my whole pop song folder, which essentially tell the first things from Greatest Showman. This is me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, from the Greatest Showman thing, this is me. I actually bought this music because I love the Greatest Showman. Anyway, and I just sit here and just play through it, and sometimes it's not the whole thing. Maybe it's just the melodic part. Maybe it's just the first half of the song. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, I got a lot of Greatest Showman, and then I'll go back to some of the older pop songs that I found. So, like, you'll recognize some of these, right? Applause, I Knew You Were Trouble, best song ever from One Direction. Not particularly a One Direction fan, but, again, these are just fun things to play, and I don't play the whole thing every time. Stitches, Royals, What Makes You Beautiful, another One Direction. Again, I'm not a One Direction fan, but oh well. Let It Go from Frozen. So it's just all cool stuff like that, again, I'll just kind of flip open this book and I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling that song. And I'll play it. Then, after that's when I'll finally put down the horn and reflect on how that just went. Normally, it's me wanting to beat my head against the wall because practicing can be frustrating, especially if you do it correctly. Because if you're really focusing on what you need to work on, it's going to sound like you suck. And you're going to feel like trash. That's just how it is. And I'm still trying to work with that myself. Definitely us as musicians, we beat ourselves up too much, right? So it's just realizing that a good practice session, you're supposed to come out of it kind of like, that wasn't good, right? But that's only because you were working on what wasn't good. If you were focusing too much on what was, then you'll probably come out of your session in a decent mood. And who knows how well you actually made yourself as how much of a better player you just made yourself. Not saying there shouldn't be practice sessions where you just play pop songs the whole time. Maybe you don't even touch scales, etudes, nothing. Just play a jingle and call it a day, right? And that's fine. You do what makes you happy. But if you would like to improve as a musician, now I've shown you ways that at least I work on to just be the best I can be, right? I don't think I'll ever be that professional euphonium player. Right now I'm in college, almost a junior. And I'm just going to be a music teacher. But I'm going to make sure that, as I get older, I'm going to be in community bands or whatever, because I'm always going to want to improve my euphonium skills, because this is my baby now, This is what I live for right here. And I love it too much to just give up on it. Speaking of which, the last thing I'll leave you guys on. I just got a new horn. It's called the Wessex Tornister Euphonium. And not that I'm going to sit here and do a review on this right now, but I love this little thing because this is the true baby euphonium. And essentially, it's actually a travel euphonium. So I got it for when I travel, different places. Like my families are in different states and stuff. And now I get to bring this to different family events and actually play for them, because I haven't played for them in years, because trying to travel with a massive horn like that, I'm not taking the chance. Anyway, so this little thing, as you can see, has little rotary valves. Most euphoniums don't. So it'll take a second to get used to. And especially if you're used to the compensating euphonium where you're using your left hand for index finger, this you'd have to use your fourth valve on your right hand, the fourth finger on your right hand, pinky, right? But other than that, the tuning's pretty good on it, and it does sound like a true euphonium. So it's beautiful to just practice on the road with, right? Everything you'd want out of a little travel euphonium, this manages to do. So super psyched about this. I've been incorporating this now into more of my practice time. Maybe I'll do a random etude with this, or save it more for the pop song section so I get used to this a little bit. The mouthpiece is pretty much the same size as my euphonium. It has a large bore receptor here. So it'll take my big bass trombone mouthpieces essentially that I use on horn. Because I don't know if I told you already, I love pedal notes. Anyway, so with the mouthpieces all being the same and the valves really all being the same, and if you want to get special, by the way, you can always take your index finger on the left if you're so used to it, and you can still use a rotary valve like that. Like, you can still make it work. It might be a little uncomfortable that way, but you can definitely make it happen if you were considering getting one of these. Not saying you guys have the money to do that right now, because who really does? I just got lucky and my birthday came up, so that's how I got it. But anyway, enough of that. But I guess I'll just leave you guys on the note of, make sure you work on what makes you happy. Make sure you remember why you play euphonium, or maybe you play trombone or tuba, right? Whatever, make sure you're doing music because it makes you feel good and happy. And hopefully this inspires you a little bit to maybe go out and practice. And just pick up those different etudes maybe you've played in the past. Maybe it's nothing you're even working on now. And just play through them again. You'd be surprised how inspired you'll make yourself feel, let alone the people around you. Most of us are stuck in our houses right now, and our whole family's around, and maybe they're not particularly music people. I know my family, they want nothing to do with music. My younger sister's now finally getting into it, but I mean, it's not that they don't like music, they're just not into it. They've never played an instrument in their life. Anyway, but especially when I play the pop songs that they recognize, and if I can actually play it decently, that's always a question. But if I play it well, they start to enjoy it, and it starts to inspire them just a little bit, and any bit helps, especially during this time. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. If you guys have any ideas for other videos you'd like me to do, any etudes you want me to play, anything you want me to recommend, I have a whole bunch of other books. I just wasn't going to talk about all of them. Basically, if you guys need anything from me, I'm here for you. And I'll leave you on that. Have a good day, you guys.